The letter had been hidden for 50 years. When Eleanor found it, tucked inside her late husband's dusty copy of Moby Dick, her entire marriage, 48 years of quiet dinners, shared Christmases, and steady devotion crumbled into a lie. The letter was not from Robert. It was from Thomas, the man she had loved and lost at 18, and it was postmarked June 14th, 1975. Her breath caught in her throat. She didn't need a calendar. She knew that date. It was 2 days after her wedding. Eleanor sank into Robert's old leather chair, the scent of his pipe tobacco and peppermint still clinging to the fabric. Just moments before, she had been a widow in mourning. Now she didn't know what she was. She read the words inside, her hands shaking so violently she could barely focus. My dearest Ellie, I'm at the station. Our station. I've been here since noon. It's nearly 5 p.m., and I'm starting to think you're not coming. I don't understand. We promised. Eleanor had to read the line 3 times. He was there. He had waited. I have to take the last train, the letter continued. My scholarship depends on it, but I'll come back. I'll write. I'll call. Don't marry him, Ellie. Please. Whatever your parents said, it's not true. Wait for me. Yours, Thomas. The rain against the window was the only sound. The letter hadn't been sent to her parents' house. It had been sent here, to the small apartment she had just moved into with her new husband, Robert. A new cold realization washed over her, far colder than the grief of the past 2 years. Robert, her quiet, steady husband, must have checked the mail that day. He must have seen the envelope. He must have recognized Thomas's name. She'd been honest with him about her past, her heartbreak. He had opened it. He had read it. And then he had hidden it, tucked it away in the one book he must have known she would never, ever read. 50 years, her entire marriage, her entire adult life, it had all been based on a theft, a lie of omission. The betrayal and the love warred within her, leaving her exhausted. That night, Eleanor didn't sleep. She sat in the living room, the letter in her lap, and watched the dawn break. The next morning, she didn't feel like a widow. She felt like a detective, standing at the scene of a 50-year-old crime. She couldn't ask Robert why. She couldn't yell. She couldn't cry. She couldn't demand an explanation. He was gone. But Thomas wasn't. She had to know, not to rekindle a romance. That ship had sailed, its sails tattered by time. She just needed to deliver the mail, to close a loop that had been left open for 5 decades. She needed to tell him, I was there. I waited too. She opened her laptop. Her fingers, stiff with arthritis, typed his name into the search bar. Thomas. Thousands of results. But she added a word, Thomas, artist. The results narrowed. She found a mention in a 20-year-old newspaper article. A small-time artist, then a more recent hit. Thomas, painter, Stillwater Gallery. She clicked the link. The gallery was in a small coastal town in Maine, 3 states away. The About page showed a portfolio of his work. Windswept beaches, gray skies, lonely boats pulled up on the sand. His work was beautiful and full of a familiar melancholy. And there on the contact page was a photo. It was him, The sharp angles of his face had softened. His dark hair was now a distinguished snowy white. But the eyes, they were the same. Intense, searching, still looking for something. She booked a train ticket for the next morning. The journey felt unreal. She felt like two people, the 68-year-old widow on a strange errand, and the 18-year-old girl, finally on her way to the station. The town of Stillwater was all salt air and crying gulls. The gallery was on a small street paved with cobblestones, a bright blue door welcoming her in. A small bell chimed as she entered. The gallery was empty, save for the man standing at the back, his back to her, dabbing at a large canvas. She walked slowly, her heart pounding against her ribs. She passed paintings of the sea. She passed a charcoal sketch of a lighthouse. And then she stopped. It was a small painting tucked in a corner. A quick, impressionistic rendering of a train station platform. A girl with dark hair sat on a suitcase, looking down the tracks. It was her. I called that one the waiting room, a voice said. She turned. Thomas was standing there, wiping his hands on a blue-smugged rag. He looked at her, first with polite curiosity, and then with a dawning, impossible recognition. He searched her face, his own expression shifting from confusion to shock. Ellie, he whispered. He corrected himself. Eleanor? Hello, Thomas, she said, her voice barely a whisper. He just stared. 50 years vanished from his face, replaced by the look of the boy on the platform. I don't, he stammered. How? I live in Pennsylvania, she said, filling the silence. My husband, Robert, he passed away 2 years ago. I'm sorry to hear that, Thomas said. The words were polite, but his eyes were full of questions he didn't know how to ask. I was cleaning out his study, Eleanor continued, her hand going to her purse. She pulled out the yellowed envelope. I found this, tucked inside a copy of Moby Dick. She handed it to him. Thomas looked at the envelope, then at her. He didn't need to open it. He recognized his own slanted handwriting. He saw the postmark. You. You only just got this? He asked, his voice rough. I'm so sorry, Thomas, she said, and a single tear she hadn't known was waiting rolled down her cheek. He? Robert. He must have hidden it. I never knew. I waited for you. I waited all day. I thought you abandoned me. Thomas sank onto a nearby stool. I waited too, he said, his voice thick. I came back the next weekend. I called your parents' house. Your mother told me. She told me you and Robert were on their honeymoon. He let out a long, slow breath. It sounded like it had been held in for 50 years. I thought you'd made your choice, he said. I thought you were happy. I was happy, Eleanor said, and the words felt true. Robert was a good man, a kind man. We had a quiet life. 2 children, grandchildren. I married too, Thomas said, offering a small smile. Sarah, she was a sculptor. We had a son. She's been gone. 6 years now. They sat in that small, paint-scented gallery for hours. They filled in the 50-year gap. They showed each other photos of their children, their grandchildren. They talked about their careers, their spouses, their small joys and quiet griefs. With every story, Eleanor felt a weight lifting. This wasn't about a life lost. It was about two lives lived, parallel to each other, but both meaningful, both full. When it was time for her to catch her train, Thomas walked her to the station. He must have loved you very much, Eleanor, Thomas said quietly as the train's horn blew in the distance. To do what he did. Eleanor looked at him. The anger she had felt at Robert was gone. It had been replaced by a complicated, profound, and forgiving wave of understanding. Yes, she said, he did, and I loved him. She watched him from the train window until he was just a small figure on the platform. Then she settled back in her seat, and for the first time in 2 years, perhaps for the first time in her whole life, her heart felt completely, entirely at peace. When she got home, the house was dark and quiet. The study still smelled of Robert. She took Thomas's letter, yellowed and frail, and she didn't burn it. She didn't hide it. She placed it on the mantel, right next to Robert's photograph. They were both a part of her story. The great passionate storm of her youth and the long, quiet, steady harbor of her life. And finally, standing here in the winter of her years, she was grateful for both.